Thank you to our hosts, the Corporate Council on Africa, for bringing us here together.
I've been a part of CCA since about 2002, so for me, it's just to have seen it grow and grow and grow so much over the years. It's amazing.
It's a win-win for everybody.
I, William Jefferson Clinton, do solemnly swear.
January 1993, newly inaugurated President Bill Clinton appoints Ron Brown as the first African American to head the United States Department of Commerce.
He was the perfect Commerce Secretary.
He invested so much time and energy in Africa.
Perhaps the greatest testament to Brown's investment in Africa is the Corporate Council on Africa, the CCA, the leading American trade group focused on U.S.-Africa business relationships. One of Brown's first acts as Commerce Secretary was to spearhead the formation of the CCA with a small grant from USAID. His premise was simple: private sector-led trade and investment, not aid and grants, was the key to Africa's development. And the CCA was to be the leader in fostering mutually beneficial trade ties between Africa and the United States, exposing U.S. businesses to investment opportunities in Africa, and helping to open U.S. markets to African imports. Now, the CCA can look back at some historic milestones as it has worked over the last 20 years to fulfill Brown's mission. In 2003, as the organization celebrated its 10th anniversary and hit full stride, President Bush chose its 4th biennial summit as the forum for a major speech to announce his Africa policy. That summit was fittingly attended by heads of states from 17 African countries. Also in 2003, the CCA organized the first AGOA Private Sector Forum in Africa, attended by more than 900 persons in Mauritius.
The Africa Growth and Opportunity Act.
Africa would welcome the CCA back in 2007 as the organization held its first summit outside the United States in Cape Town, South Africa, with U.S. Secretary of the Treasury Hank Paulson as the keynote speaker. By now, the CCA was the go-to organization for U.S. policymakers and leaders for advice on trade and other matters pertaining to Africa. President Bill Clinton would invite the CCA to join his business delegation to Nigeria in 2000. In 2009, another Clinton, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, would headline the CCA's 7th biannual summit in Washington, D.C. More recently, the CCA hosted President Obama and President Kikwete of Tanzania at a meeting of more than 200 African and American business leaders during President Obama's 2013 visit to Tanzania.
Our gratitude to President Kikwete and the people of Dar es Salaam and Tanzania for their incredible hospitality. Thank you to our hosts, the Corporate Council on Africa, for bringing us here together.
During that trip, President Obama announced his Power Africa initiative.
Power Africa, to double access to electricity here in Africa. This facility was idle. With the support from the Millennium Challenge Grant, General Electric, and Symbion, they got it up and running again.
It noted a role for the CCA as the private sector leader in bringing that effort to fruition. These historic milestones apart, the CCA can proudly look back at 20 years of being at the center of a remarkable growth in trade and investment between Africa and the United States. The facts and figures speak for themselves. In 1993, when the CCA was founded, total trade between the U.S. and Africa stood at $24.2 billion. Today, it is more than double to $67.3 billion. During that period, Africa export to the U.S. increased from $14.7 billion to $41 billion. Certainly, many reasons account for this spike in U.S.-Africa trade, but the CCA, with its many Africa-focused trade-related programs and growing membership, has been right in the mix of it all.
The organization does represent about 85 to 90% of all U.S. private investment.
Membership in 2013 has been the largest increase in any year in the history of CCA.
The CCA is certainly poised for another 20 years of being in the forefront of promoting a win-win approach to investing and doing business